Thomas, welcome to Totally Lit.
Hello, Ky Garvey. Lovely to
Thank
be
you so
here.
much for joining me. I'm very excited. I had a lovely copy of your book sent to me by Scholastic.
Very good. Bedtime and No Butts.
Bedtime and No Butts.
Yep. Which I've probably got a copy sitting around here somewhere. I forgot to put one on my table. I can see one in the corner. Yes, it exists in my room too. Do you know what I was thinking at the beginning of your? You need a sorry, before we get onto the book, you need an intro music. That's just you need to start the podcast. You need sort of like, totally lit. Let's talk for a bit with Ky Garvey.
Are you volunteering to sing that for me?
Yeah, totally. I'll just come in at the beginning of every podcast and sing that for you.
My background music that I use at the moment was composed by my friend's daughter, who is a composer.
Right. Okay, so you do.
I'm always so proud. I'm like, I have a theme song, but it has no words.
Right. Okay. Well, once they can come and add some. Anyway, sorry, that wasn't books.
Not a problem. I love talking books, but I also love talking all sorts of nonsense as well. So we all have to be careful.
Yeah, I will.
Who knows where our chat will go?
Totally, and I will just totally fail to do any promo for my book at all, whilst trying to make you a jingle, which also I'm not professional at. Although I'm professional at writing books now, I've got a book published.
You are professional, but did you not work in advertising?
I did work in advertising. I worked in advertising for a long time, and then I worked in comedy writing and things like that, and did stand up. And
you did stand up.
I did for about
scary.
I did for about 5 or 6 years in the UK, and in both a part and full time capacity, and did the Edinburgh Festival.
Right.
Yeah, a long time ago, but that was like back in early 2000s. So I haven't done that for about 20 years, and I have no desire to go back and do it anymore because it's.
But again, you don't have a one-man show.
I was a bit too anxious to be a comic. You have to be. It's funny doing stand-up. Like, a lot of stand-ups are very anxious, but the anxiety either works for you or against you, I think. And I think I was sort of I slowly crumbled over a period of years to a point where I just wasn't sleeping. Things like that. And I'd get so het up about gigs. But whereas if you're the sort of, if you can harness your anxiety usefully, then it's obviously a brilliant thing for comedy. But yeah, in that, I think I was just, I don't know, I think maybe what it meant to me at the time, or anyway, I didn't. Yeah. So I basically sort of drove myself to one of my many nervous breakdowns, and
oh dear,
I did other things instead.
I am very anxious as an author, so I completely understand. Although I'm fine, like on the podcast, fine. Sitting on a panel, fine.
Yeah.
Anything seated, great. But as soon as you get me in front of a lectern, my knees shake, my hands shake, my voice shakes.
Right.
And I'm like, it's terrible. Like, I'm
so presenting
to speak. Like, all I can do is talk and write.
Yeah.
If I can't even talk, that's a problem.
Right. Okay. But you're not nervous as an author, are you? Or as a presenter?
I live with a level of anxiety that haunts me a little bit in terms of there's certain situations I'll get very anxious in. And then there's I achieve a lot in a day. So yeah, it's kind of a bit strange. I'm very capable, but also always second guessing.
Right. Yeah. Totally.
A great way to live.
Yeah.
I recently went to a school visit where I had to speak to, I think there was 180 kids in the hall. And beforehand, I was in my head, I'm like, these kids deserve an amazing speech from you right now. And it was only 3 minutes. And I was ramping myself up because I'm like, this is the only time that this particular school will have someone come to speak. I really need to do a good job. And I still was nervous, although I think they didn't pick up on it. And the kids, they're just happy to have someone speaking to them. But I sat down and I was like, okay, that pep talk did not work.
I know, isn't it funny what we do to ourselves? And especially I've got my first school visits in August, I think, during book week. And I know I'll be absolutely terrified beforehand, and basically all you've got to do is sit down with a bunch of 7-year-olds and have a nice time with them, and have a bit of fun and hopefully impart some inspiration or knowledge about writing and creativity, and which is what you love talking about. But you managed to turn that into this terrifying thing, that you have to deliver perfectly or something, and they don't know about
No one noticed
like that. They just want to, they just want you to draw a bum or something.
Kids are amazing though. Like in a classroom setting, it's much easier with the smaller amount of kids. And if you're sitting reading your book,
Yep.
that is better.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely find it's something about standing in front of a group of people that really changes my
Right.
vibe.
Okay. Because
So no stand up for me.
Right. Okay. Good. Okay. Well, you're not missing much. It's an interesting thing, stand up, because you're so. I think of all the performing arts, you're so naked, right? Because you have an audience. You have an audience that's nervous in front of you because they're not. Most audiences want to laugh, but they're worried you won't be funny. So that's kind of what goes on in an audience's head a lot of the time. So they actually want you to be funny, but you have to make them comfortable in order for them to be accepting that you're funny. So you have to kind of go up on stage looking like you absolutely know you're funny or know what you're doing. And you have to kind of make them comfortable enough to be able to relax in your presence and kind of go with your thing. So much of it is about your confidence. And it's a good lesson for life. A lot of the comics I saw do really well in London weren't actually the funniest people. They were a lot. I'd say about half of them were just the people that were the most confident and could just be on stage, kind of knowing that they were hilarious, even if they actually kind of if you wrote their stuff down, it wouldn't be as good as a lot of the other people that didn't do as well. They just delivered it so confidently. So it's got nothing to do with books. But
what I'm going to say next is nothing to do with books, although it could be related to writing. I recently watched a documentary about Steve Martin and the way he works, and he was talking about the kind of like the contract you have with an audience where they're expecting when it's time to laugh, and part of his comedy is that he pulls that away all the time.
Right.
And it took a long time for him to make that relationship with audiences where it was landing, but because he's he's wanting to challenge the way we think about a comedy, so it's always changing. Where like we're ready to laugh now, but he's going to put it in a different. And I found that very interesting. And was surprised that I had so much in common with a nearly 80-year-old man.
Was it the knees?
Possibly the knees. But yeah, also that I think it's something all artists suffer from, is that we all have a bit of a complicated relationship with our art, and we're seeking approval from people we probably will never get approval from.
Yeah, I'm seeking approval from my 5-year-old self. So by writing stupid books.
But you might have hit the mark with this book.
I hope so.
What do you think your 5-year-old self would think?
I think my 5-year-old self would enjoy this book. I think so. I would have been sitting there making up my own excuses to not go to bed. So this book's basically about it's a little koala who's making up excuses to not go to bed, and he's a cheeky little fella, and they all begin with but, and I think that would have been fairly on the money for me. So I would have been very, very enthused, and I hopefully would have learned all his excuses and applied them with vigor and vim, and added a bunch of my own. But yeah, no, I think so. I think if I'd looked forward to being 5 and you said you were writing kids' books, I'd have been very pleased. I think it's definitely been
amazing.
Yeah, like I love kids' books so much that there were a bunch of books from my young childhood that got lost in the midst of time, and that I spent probably about 20 years trying to remember what the books were. I remember there was one about a crocodile who swallowed everything, and there was one about a little mouse who got lost, and then there was the original Helen Oxenbury illustrated Quangle Wangle's Hat, and a few other books like that. And over the years, I've managed to figure out the titles of the books, and with the help of the internet and eBay and AI and stuff like that, I've figured out slowly the title of the book. And I think I've just bought the very last one of all the books. So it's a book book called Charles, which is an American book, and I managed to find a copy on eBay for about $200, and so that was my birthday treat to myself this year. So
Oh, nice.
I finally managed to get all these old books from my childhood, and yeah, and they just bring back these incredible memories, you know.
Mm,
And it's fantastic looking back at books from the 70s and 60s, like illustrated kids books, because the illustrations compared with what they are like now are so crude. You know, they're so basic and so crude, and like there is no way any of those illustrations would get past a publishing house these days. Whereas I thought like in Helen Oxenbury is a good example, like her illustrations for the Crangle Wangle's hat in the 70s or 60s, whenever it came out, which is the Edward Lear rhyme poem. They were fab, but they were very much of that sort of quality of, say, the Tiger Who Came to Tea or something, which these days would be no good. But I grew up with them thinking they were the best drawings ever, you know, and now the art now is so brilliant,
yeah.
it's at such a high level of difference and interest and sophistication, and even the simple stuff, like Oliver Jeffers or Ed Vero, or people like that who are just incredible.
It is interesting, I guess the dichotomy between the words and the pictures in a picture book, because kids do love going through the book and looking at all the pictures and
Yeah,
exploring everything, but you also want the story to be the hero as well. And it's
yeah,
becoming more and more of that delicate balance, because the illustrations are so beautiful.
yeah, totally.
My
And
goodness, it's just blowing my story out of the
yeah,
water.
absolutely. Well, I love it. Well, this book was a lovely surprise to me, because I wrote the idea, this was one of those books that came to me really quickly. Like, how some, like a lot of my books, a lot of my ideas rhyme,
Mhm.
and those, especially when their stories take a long time to write, because I'll just be playing with the rhyme for ages and trying to figure out a sort of story flow that then, it's just a real sort of like a big meta problem. But this one just came to me. I just had this idea one morning of like, a little kid saying, making up excuses that begin with "but," and then it was fairly easy to, it all came together quite quickly. But I'd just written a story about a little boy, or and called Boris, and then when it came back from Richard, the illustrator, he turned it into a koala. And so I didn't say it's a koala. He just made it a koala, and I think he's British, and I think he probably assumed I was Australian, and so this koala came back, and I was like, oh, it's a koala, great, and yeah, he's this gorgeous little koala, and it actually adds that lovely, it's that lovely
Mm.
example of what the artist adds to it, other than his own.
Well, they create a whole different story with their illustrations. It's
Totally, and he's added loads of
incredible.
elements to the images. So there's so much going on in each page, and he was lovely to work with. Actually, he's been really there's been a little bit of back and forth between us. He'll send the first drafts over, and we'll be like, oh, what about we could do this here, and he's just so lovely to work with. So, and he's just sent over I got the first pictures for the next one. So
Oh,
so
how
so I haven't
exciting.
haven't been through them yet, but yeah, that's on the thing for tomorrow. So yeah, very exciting.
So you've been in advertising, you've been a comic. I have the inkling that you also make films.
I did, yeah. I just closed it down sort of beginning of the year last year. Well, sort of sometime, I don't know, last year, this year. I ran a documentary film company for about 4 years, and that was it's called All About Me Films. And I would go and record people's life stories. So it was like having your own version of Australian Story. So I'd come to your home with a big camera kit and 2 or 3 cameras, and I'd sit there and interview you for 2, 3, sometimes 4 hours, and then go away and cut it into a sort of hour-long film
Mhm.
with photos and video clips and stuff through it to tell your life story. And that was amazing. Actually, it was very hard work. And getting the photos out of people was always a nightmare. There were some people it took me like 2 years to get the photos out of, but it was incredible. I worked with people who had a lot of people which were just mums and dads who were loved by their kids, and but I also worked with people who were who were having cognitive decline or had cancer, and a few of my subjects have passed away since I've made their films. So I've seen what they've meant to the families and stuff like that. So that was a yeah, that was a very meaningful thing to do. If quite a lot of work. The editing nearly killed me. So you sort of just you get home after this huge day of filming, sort of absolutely panicking that everything was in focus, and the volume was okay, and you check it all the way through, and then you get home, you'd be like, oh, please be okay. And then it would be, it would always take me about a week to edit every film, so I just have to grind through this film and and tell their story, but it's telling stories from a very different viewpoint. But also sort of interesting from that perspective, in the sense that the sorts of things people were interested in tended to be the sorts of things that most people cared about tended to be the same. So you'd have someone who lived an incredible sort of 85 year long life, and really all they cared about was their losing their parents and their kids, and it was very rare, never the money. There was occasionally some sense of accomplishment in career, but it was really mostly about friends and loved ones and stuff like that. So all those themes that you see coming through books in terms of the people you love and stuff like that, they are the themes that still resonate when you're older as well.
So why picture books?
I just love picture books. I love simple stories. I think that's probably what got me into advertising. I just love and stand up. I just love a really well told, very, very simple story with a nice insight leap, I guess. And then I think picture books, because the stories are so simple, but then there's that illustrative element that also brings them to life. And I also always loved cartoons and things as a kid. So for me, picture books have just got that. They've just got a real pull, a real tug to your emotional side that non-illustrated books don't always. I mean, obviously, brilliant novels and things can, obviously very, very emotive. But yeah, I think for me, there's this multi-sensorial sort of grab, that they just get, and I can just sit with them for a long time and just sort of live in them and absorb them. So yeah.
So you're with Scholastic. Did you want to tell me your journey to publication? How did you connect with them?
Yeah, I was very lucky. I probably wrote my first picture book idea about 20 years ago. So yeah, so you too can make it in this world, kids. If you
20-year journey.
on this 20-year journey to my first book, which obviously has bought the Maserati. And so I wrote a few book ideas about 20 years ago. Didn't do much with them. I did get an agent in the UK, but then didn't end up selling anything. And I didn't really know what I was doing I wasn't really in the industry or really connected to it in any particular way. And so I sort of potted with that for a bit, left it alone, came back to it, I think once or twice, had a bit of interest in America from I think the company that published The Very Hungry Caterpillar, but then they didn't quite do anything. And then again, left it for another 10 years. And then my second wife is also an author. Her name's Ingrid Laguna. She's published. She's a multi-award winning author of all sorts of things, but she's published several children's middle grade books. And she saw some of my old stuff and was just like, why aren't you doing this? This is what, and I was, and I sort of said, this is what I'd love to do. So she just sort of pointed me in the right direction, told me about the ASA, and I looked at the ASA and they were running a thing called Pitch Perfect.
Yes.
And I just kind of started writing again. So this is probably about 3 years ago. The Australian Society of Authors, the ASA, they run this fab thing called Pitch Perfect about maybe 3 times a year, where you can go and you join the ASA, pay this, whatever it is. Well, it's not much, like $50, I think. And you can book in with 1 or 2 either agents or publishers, and you get. I think I can't remember if it's 3 or 5 minutes to pitch your book ideas to them, and I booked into that a couple of times, maybe 2 or 3 times, and I think on the second one I had a session with Beck Young at Scholastic, and she picked up Bedtime and No Butts. Actually, she picked
Amazing.
up Bath Time and No Butts. And then I sort of pitched it and said, "Hey, you could make it a series. You could do Bedtime and No Butts, no
Shoot your
butts, no
shot.
butts." And yeah, and then Beck came back to me and said, "We love it. We want to publish it." And then they came back to me and said, "Actually, let's do two." And I was like, "Whoa!" So
Amazing.
yeah, so they're doing two, and she's just been brilliant. She's just been such a lovely. She's been such a lovely sort of guide into the world, and just really very sort of conspiratorial and just a sort of absolute pleasure to work with. So we have a really nice, sort of email back and forth with each other about things. And then she's also picked up a rhyming book, a sort of rhyming story. It's a bit. Do you think of like the Gruffalo and Julia Donaldson, that sort of word count and sort of rhyme feel, I guess, yeah, that's me comparing myself immediately to Julia Donaldson. So always, yeah.
Always surround yourself with the people that you would
Surround
like to
yourself
be.
with the best,
So,
exactly. Yeah, it's a bit like Dr. Seuss, except better. That's coming out, I think, maybe the year after next. I can't remember. But I'm always, but yeah. So Beck's been great, but I'm always coming up with new ideas. I've probably written two this year, well, my third at the moment. So I mean, they're all just sort of hovering around in the dark, waiting like little, it's like you've probably got little book babies that are,
yeah, I have a few
yeah,
that are not written but are in my head. I just have
yeah,
to sit down and
yeah,
write them.
yeah.
Although I have been for some assessments at some conferences coming up. There's BSAB in October and Sketch and Scribe in September, I think. So I've paid for those assessments, so I need to have something written.
And what sort of things are you working on?
So I've got picture books.
Yeah.
Originally, I was writing books. I've got two sons with autism, so I was writing about some of their experiences because I wanted to help the world be a different place, but they haven't really picked up much traction when I pitched them. So then I sat down at my laptop and went, okay, reconnect with little Kylie. What did she love? And I wrote Easy Peasy, which is about Ruby learning how to roller skate. And I was like, well, I think that was because I really leaned into that being childlike and
Yeah.
remembering what it was like to
Yeah.
have fun as a kid. So that has been published with EK Books since about
Oh,
3 years
lovely.
old.
Yeah.
And so I've written a few other things that are a bit like that.
Yeah.
And I've got some manuscripts which are just the same as everybody else's, unfortunately. So I think I've been struck with brilliant ideas, and then all the other books come out that are the same, and I'm like, oh, okay.
And kind of all at the same time as well.
Yes, it's so
I
strange
know,
how
right?
that
I've got a book about a dragon. Yeah, we've got dragons. It's all yeah.
dragons are everywhere. And so it's just a process of keep writing, and
Yeah.
I don't rhyme, so mine are prose, and I'm only ever funny accidentally, so I don't attempt to be humorous as
Right.
much, but I like to try and put some funny things in if I can help it. But it's all, I guess, a learning process as well, like figuring it out, the word count and the rhythm and
Totally.
what the market is looking for. I think that is the key factor, is what the market is looking for.
Yeah, I think that's probably one of my weaknesses, is that I don't really do that. I sort of like I sort of just write any ideas that come to me, and that's so everything I'm coming up with is probably terribly, you know. I remember the idea the first idea that I wrote was about, it's called Splat, What Am I? And it was about a little green blob that hits a wall, and then it goes on this sort of journey of trying to figure out what it is, and all these various animals just go, "Oh, you're sticky. You can't be this. You're a so and so. Oh no, you're more crunchy. You can't be this." Anyway, at the end of it, it finds out it's a bogey,
Oh
when this
no,
when this little boy scoops him up and sticks him back in his nose where he lives happily ever after. And that
that would be a shock to discover that's what you are.
I think he was quite happy. The picture at the end. I drew it, and the picture at the end. He looks very happy inside the kid's nose. I did like a cross section of a kid's nose, and with him sort of smiling, a smiling bogey with eyes. Yeah, and it got like no interest at the time, and then like about 5 years ago, there was this rash of bogey come to life books. So I
So
just
you're
obviously
shaking your hand, going, "Oh,
I just, I, I,
cursor."
ah. So I just missed, I missed it. So yeah, so whatever. I'm sure I'll just write for the wrong time, or maybe I just write rubbish books.
I think there is a bit of if something has come out that's the same theme as your book, I think there's a little bit of time you can sit on it and then revisit it
All
in
right.
terms of, because I think kids are always growing up and new kids are being born. So, like, there's new kids out there to
They,
read your book. So,
they are
your
making
market is
new
always,
kids all the time.
yes,
Yes, they
definitely.
do. They do this.
So just if you're writing for like the 4 to 6 year old market, those 4 to 6 year olds grow up and there are new ones.
Yeah,
So there's always fresh eyes ready
yeah,
for your stories.
yeah.
But yeah, just I think I did not realize the patience I would need to be a picture book author, in that I was like, okay, I've got one book, I've got traction, now the next book. And there's been a little bit of a slower process with that. And I think for some authors, they do have a series of books all happen at once, and that's
Yeah.
amazing. But then there's those times where there's that waiting game, and learning how to sit in that can be a challenge.
Totally. Well, also, the fact of getting published once is, it's a tough market. It's a tough market in an increasingly tough sector. I mean,
Mm.
it's probably only, you know, it's probably only 2 weeks until Amazon released the AI "What book would you like" book, and they don't care about books. So, we're all fighting uphill in a sector that's just going to get harder and harder and harder, presumably. But but you've just got to, I think the AI thing is just. I went through a little phase last year, really struggling to write at all because of AI kind of
You were
coming
worried
into.
about AI
Not worried
affecting the
about it, just
industry?
feeling, but yeah, just kind of just feeling, what is the point? Just what
Mm.
is the point? I'm quite an enthusiastic AI user at work, so I'm fairly confident with it, in terms of just using it for things. And it just made me think, and I just went through a real phase of just like, what is the point of doing anything creative? Because it can't do it yet. It can't quite do it yet, but it's not going to be long. And
Mm.
it'll be able to create stuff that is good enough that your average Joe or Joanne won't really care. They won't be looking for that. And it's already happening in Spotify and things that
Mm.
they're sneaking in AI songs, and most of us can't tell, and stuff like that. And literature, I can't imagine will be any different. So I went through a real struggle of thinking, just what is the point?
Mm.
And then, but then kind of came back to the place of which I can think you have to be as a writer anyway, of just going, actually, it doesn't matter, because there are millions of authors around the world who can do what I do. I'm
Mm.
already up against them, and and that doesn't make any difference. And so the reason you write just has to be because you want to write. Because you can't be trying to get into the children's publishing market because you want to make lots of money, because you almost definitely not going to. So it's got to
Will
be.
not.
You will not, absolutely. Even if you're pretty successful, you're probably not going to make much money. There's just those very occasional people who do very well out of it. But
Mm.
you've just got to do it because you love creating that thing, and then if it gets published, it's a bonus. So I just love just the challenge of, I love having that little insight of the little story idea that springs up. And then I just love the challenge of trying to turn it into a story. And then I love the challenge of trying to turn that story skeleton into something that's much more fleshed out. And then it's really satisfying when you do it in a way that you think kind of works in a sort of beautiful kind of mathematical kind of. I'm very mathsy about my book structure. So, but yeah, when you just get it all together, it's just so satisfying. And actually, the book being published is kind of, it's really exciting, but it's kind of finishing writing the book is
Mm.
the best bit, or writing the book is the best bit. So that's really helped me get through that whole what's the point AI, thing,
I think there's another part to the experience as well. Like once your book is published and you're getting out there meeting the kids who are reading your book,
Yeah.
that experience is amazing.
Yeah. Right.
Meeting them at libraries and going visiting the schools, things like a mum and a child will travel all the way across the city because they've seen you're at this bookshop, but it's a long way from their house, but they make that trip. We've come all the way to see you because this is our favorite book.
Oh,
That is,
yeah.
it's priceless,
Yeah.
and a, an AI cannot have that experience, if you
Yeah.
know what I mean. I
Yeah.
suppose whatever author has used the AI can pretend that they've written it themselves, but they'll always know
Oh yeah,
that they didn't
that,
write it.
and also exactly that's the reason for not cheating because you know,
Yeah.
nobody else is going to be able to tell, but you didn't make a book, and you doesn't, you didn't make a piece of art, you might have helped some, but you did, you know, yeah, that's your guardrail again. So I can't wait. I've done a few. I've offered on Instagram, I've done a few things where I've said I've got this puppet that I use on Instagram sometimes, and I'm sure I've a bit of fun with, and I've offered people who've bought a copy of the book if they message me, I'll do a
Oh,
message for
I saw that.
the kids with Monster. Yeah,
Somebody commented, I think it might have been Rory Mather had said, and the floodgates will
yeah,
open, or something
exactly.
along those
So
lines.
I think I've done about six, but it's big. I don't. If I had 1,000 people come to me saying we got that, I'd be so delighted. I would be delighted to spend an entire weekend doing nothing but Hello Kids. But I think I've done about six so far. I only put it out a couple of weeks ago. I'd probably only sold 6 books. So so but I've done it, and then somebody sent me a video of their son read it, showing their video to their 3-year-old. Oh,
Oh,
it was magic. Because I was using his name, and it was me and Monster. You go, oh, yeah, hello, hello Johnny,
oh.
and he was just like, what? It was so good. And then we sort of taught him to shout "but," and it was brilliant. Oh my goodness, it was so good.
That experience that you get writing picture books, like it's amazing.
Yeah, yeah.
This When my book first came out, a friend of mine bought my book for his daughter, and I was in the supermarket, and suddenly my phone it's coming up FaceTime. I'm like, oh, FaceTime, and it was my friend who's like, we love this book so much that my daughter had to speak to you right now, immediately, and tell you how much she loved it. And so I'm FaceTiming her in the supermarket. And those experiences, they're just so, yeah, amazing that
Yeah, that's
something that you've written
has that
lights up
impact.
somebody else's world like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, it's lovely. And another friend sent me a little video of his two who'd come to the launch. So when I did a little launch at Readings in Carlton, and I read the book out, and I showed all the kids. I made all the kids join in. That every time, every excuse begins with "but" in the book,
Mhm.
and so I basically said to the kids, every time we see this word, you have to shout "but," and so then my friend got a little video of his two kids, one of whom is barely belly reading age, and the other of whom is like 2.5, 3 years old, both sitting there early one morning, probably both nude, sitting around the book, and just going through the book, sort of pretending to read it, and then every page they'd sort of hit the bar, and they'd both go "but." So that was gorgeous. And I said, maybe you could do another video of them with some clothes on so we could actually put it on something. You could just go and tell them to do it again. You know how kids are really good at performing to request.
I gifted your book to my niece. She's about to turn 8, but she was very like, oh, it says but. And I also, at the same time, I happen to have, I don't know if you've seen Steve Menon's book, which is, I think it's Make Them Say Poo.
Oh, yes,
Yes,
yes.
Make Them Say Poo.
Yeah.
I gave both those books to her at the same time, and there was much giggling.
That's so
Oh, I
funny.
don't know if I can say that.
That's
Uh,
so funny. I know. How good is it with that age when you get quite awkward about. I remember being very puritanical when I was in upper primary school, about sort of like, oh no, that's bad. And yeah,
that's
yeah.
okay.
It's a different butt though. This is just the excuse butt, not the other one. There's a one less T.
And so, what has the feedback been from the market at the moment? Like, are the kids loving it? Are parents loving it?
Goodness, do you know what? I get nice feedback. I'm new. I'm so new to the market, so I really wasn't really even on Instagram very much until just before the book launched. So I'm pretty new to the world and don't really have that many connections into the readership, I suppose. But yeah, I've had lovely feedback and people driving their parents nuts and things like that, and sort of ruining bedtime for children everywhere. So the kids seem
It's
to like it. I'm not sure the
already an
parents.
ordeal.
Exactly. The kids seem to like it. I'm not sure I've necessarily it was necessarily the best tool for parents, but yeah, they they seem to enjoy it.
Now, I have a few questions to ask you for my listeners to get to know you a little bit better. These are like quick fire questions. So I'm
Okay.
just going to say some words to you, and I just want you to answer back with whatever comes into your head.
Okay. Bananas.
Bananas, too early.
Oh,
Have to wait till I ask the questions.
alarm clock. No, that's okay.
Okay, fiction or non-fiction?
Fiction.
Fantasy or science fiction?
Fantasy.
Plotter or pantser?
Oh, hard plotter. Absolutely. I'm having lunch with my lovely friend Robert Gott tomorrow. He's a crime writer, and he and I talk very at great depth about plotting and pantsing. He's like, you've got to go pants your next book, and he's a pantser. He's all
I was
about
going to say,
writing.
he writes crime and he's a pantser.
He writes crime and he's a pantser, and he's all about, like, he really explained it to me. I didn't really know what it was, but he's all about writing himself into a corner because then he doesn't know how he's going to get out of it. And because he doesn't know how he's going to get out of it, he's confident that then the audience will be surprised by the solution as well. So interesting.
Maybe I can write
So,
crime.
right.
I'm always
So
on the
interesting.
edge of a cliff.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry, I interrupted your flow.
Facebook or Instagram?
Instagram, but neither very enthusiastically.
Coffee or cocktails?
Coffee.
Coffee.
I'm an ex-cocktailer. I've had all my cocktails.
No more cocktails for Dan.
No more cocktails.
Caffeine only.
Yeah, exactly.
Those questions, I'm very interested in the plotting and pantsing question because I am a pantser, but I have
Are
a
you?
very bad habit of sitting down an hour before a deadline and putting something down.
Right.
And sometimes I've won some comps doing that, so
Yeah.
it sometimes works. But I do want to write something more long form. I've started doing the Year of the Novel with Queensland Writers Centre to do a middle grade.
Oh, that
It
sounds.
might lean into why, but we'll see. But
What's the year of the novel? It's like a structured approach
it's a
to.
structured course. We have one day at the writing centre with a facilitator. So in this case, it's Karen Foxley, which is perfect because that's kind of the sort of book I would like to write. What she writes. So you do a one-day workshop. You go away for 2 months and come back and have made progress with your book, and then you submit what you've written for assessment as well.
Oh,
So that's
great.
about,
And then
I
you
think,
do
you
that.
submit 10 pages.
Right. And then you do that, every 2 months or something through the
Yeah,
year?
so
Or?
through the year. And I don't think I will have a finished novel, but it's pushing me forward. And
Yeah.
I'm finding in the sessions it's like inspiring me with ideas because I've just been sitting on something for a million years and not doing it, mainly because I'm frightened of it. But and I'm like, well, this is your goal. I think you need structure and accountability. Let's do it. So I really only fell into, I write short stories and I write picture books because of the amount of time I have available.
Right. Okay.
So this will be the way if you ever want to write, start doing something.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's how those things have happened.
Yeah.
So I've somehow built myself a little bit of a career writing with it. And suddenly the podcast is a thing. But now I'm like, oh, I would like to have like a full length novel
Yeah.
as part of, I guess, my legacy. Um,
Have you? I started looking at the 90-day novel earlier this year. You know that that
okay, yep.
that that method, and I only bit like you. I get sort of limited time, and I both. I sort of get 2 mornings a week to really. I try and make both weekend mornings sort of writing time, or drawing time, or whatever time. But that's my sort of religious, application. And so I've been working on a sort of novel thing over the last couple of months. But I started doing the 90-day novel, and what's quite nice about that, and I'm not doing it at the moment, but what's quite nice about that approach is it's really about just emptying out it seems to be the beginning of it certainly is really just about emptying out your brain and letting your subconscious do the writing and just getting out, just answering a bunch of questions as quickly as you can and not even worrying about plot and things like that and stuff. So I really enjoyed just coming to the book with lots of questions about what's the world like and what's the antagonist and the protagonist, what's their problem and what's the thing they think they need and all those awesome questions. And I've no idea what I've written. I'm just trying to get up to about 30,000 words of junk,
Mm.
and which I won't be able to read because my writing's so bad. And then I'll
Are
try
you
and
handwrite or typing?
I'm a handwriter. There's one. Can you
Oh,
see?
wow.
Can you see how messy my writing is? It's it's like code. It's totally indecipherable to anybody else. So I'm trying to sort of get up to about 30,000 words of that. And then I reckon I'll dictate it to myself and then I'll start looking at it and seeing if there's anything in the slightest bit interesting in there. But yeah, I'd love to write a novel. It'd be so great.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah. A novel for 3-year-olds.
Yes. Maybe that handwriting might work. You could just use that for your.
The book they can pretend to read.
Mm.
I like it. I like it. And then, in fact, for my birthday, I got this book called, oh, what's it called? It's this book by this Italian guy who in the early 80s decided to create something that it kind of looks like an encyclopedia. It's massive. It's hugely thick and about this big and printed on really, really high quality paper and very, very beautifully bound. And he basically had this idea of creating this absolutely nonsense guide to nonsense. And so he created his own alphabet and dictionary and this book is he's done all these illustrations that are total nonsense. It'd be like an elephant with a machine eye and a sort of on a some sort of weird sort of matrix machine that doesn't work or something, or sort of it turns into a fish, and then it'll look like it's all being explained, but it's all in gobbledygook. So
Okay.
and he spent about 3 or 4 years making this incredibly beautiful thing that is absolute, total, 100% indecipherable nonsense. And you can just sit there flipping through it, just marveling at the wonder of this imagination. It's just incredible.
It's amazing what art can be in
Yeah.
terms of like, also you've just said, oh, that's gobbledygook, but someone bought that.
I bought it.
You bought that for yourself.
Well, no, but it was what I asked for my birthday from Ingrid and the kids. Like they all clubbed together because it was quite expensive. But they've just released the 40th. Although they released the 40th anniversary edition about 5 years ago, and I managed to scoop one up. But yeah, but it's this incredible book. It's called the Codex
Oh,
Seraphinius.
cool.
It's by Luigi Serafini, and it's lovely
It's
thick
beautiful.
book. It's properly bound, and then in it, so here's I don't know this page. This page is like, see, it's got rainbows, but it's got like weird holes through the
Mm.
rainbows, and then it's got this guide to all these bits of rainbowy animal things, and then it's all sort of explained, but in this kind of made up kind
Mm.
of Cyrillic language, and every page is just this. Here you go. These are the sort of dog
Oh,
things.
wow.
And it's just, every page is just a work of
Could you
nuts,
possibly
kind of
take
this
me
sort
to
of
something psychedelic
machine. Yeah.
ridiculous?
Yeah, there's a fairly good chance, but at the same time, the
Well, that's
application of
quite
the
beautiful. Like
it's just beautiful,
mm,
and it's printed on incredibly, high quality stock. So as a yeah, it's just this just I just wonder at the fact that he did it,
mm.
and he was presumably quite young and could, he's one of the horse that kind of sort of.
I'm just imagining him pitching it to a publisher.
I know, right? You'd be like, so I got this book. I got with this book.
Makes no sense.
It cost $500, and this thing, and it's like, and they're
I
like, we'll
think
do a print run of two.
there is a challenge when you're trying to convey your vision to someone else and realizing it's not landing.
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah,
oh, okay, they're not quite getting that.
yeah,
Maybe I'm not explaining it, but
yeah.
also I am not great at pitching like that 3 minute scenario because I've done that ASA pitch perfect. They have now got one that is called the Picture Book Matchmaker, where you
That's
submit manuscripts and they judge them and then decide who they're putting forward and they match you with publishers. And I
right.
did that last year and I got put on the wait list. So I didn't quite get through the first round, but then someone had withdrawn and they said, oh, there's a spot for you with Hachette.
Okay.
And I do not shine in Oreo. Like, oh, okay. But
You just
I
need a
did it.
script.
Yeah, I think I'm probably a person that would not work in advertising as I
Right.
do not know how to sell myself. And that is being a little bit humble, but also having that self doubt. Like, I think you've got to go in with confidence and, yeah, sell
Yeah.
yourself.
You gotta pretend the confidence.
Yes.
But this is the thing. This is the life. This is the life rubbish that we have to get our heads around eventually.
I think, yeah, just is, yeah, if you can push back the anxiety or use it to your advantage. But
Mm,
just know, I think you've just got to go in, know what your pitch is and sell it.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I'm still mastering.
yeah,
So,
yeah, and yeah, I know. So it's so hard, isn't it? It's like at every stage of at every stage of creating and selling, and so you've kind of got to pull back from that. It matters, You got to
mm,
you've just got to somehow delete the sense of this really matters, because
yeah.
when you're trying to write, if you're writing and at the same time you're thinking this matters, you don't come up with anything interesting. Well,
Mm,
you don't let yourself go to an interesting place. It's only when you can like fully relax and try and write for yourself or write the sort of things that you're interested in. And so if you're trying to make things fit to what you think other people want or try to, then you don't ever really come up with anything that you like. So,
yeah. Mm,
and given the fact that you're probably not going to sell it anyway, you might as well just write what you like anyway, I
yes.
figure.
Mm,
So, so, you know, and so that's why people were saying to me like, well, rhyming is kind of hard, and it's kind of, it doesn't really translate, and you sort of, and so there's lots of reasons to not buy rhyming stories.
mm,
But I just figure that because the market's so hard, it doesn't really matter because I really like writing rhyming stories. So
good.
yeah, so and I've got one coming out, so that's nice. But yes, they don't all rhyme, but Bedtime and Butts doesn't rhyme. But I'd say about half my books rhyme. So yeah,
I think one thing you have to think about when you write a picture book is how it sounds when you're reading it aloud.
yes,
One, because you do want it to sound beautiful and fun,
absolutely,
but you also have to read that book over and over and over again for many, many story time sessions.
yeah.
So, yeah, sometimes thinking about what you're writing will be
Yeah.
helpful for you later
Well,
on.
and absolutely, and write it, and reading things out is such an important part. Reading things out loud is such an
Mm.
important part of figuring out whether a picture book. So, who are the people that listen to your podcast? Are they
Writers mainly,
writers? Yeah,
although random people, I'm always surprised that somebody will say, "Oh, I've listened to your podcast." I'm like, "Oh,
yeah, right.
okay, thank you very much."
But reading things aloud is such a, you often don't catch things until you read it aloud.
Mm.
You know, you'll be like, you'll have written something and think, oh, that's great. And then suddenly you read it aloud and you're like, oh no, that bit just kind of jars or doesn't quite jump, or what looked like perfect meter on the page actually doesn't quite work.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But also, I've found when I'm reading it aloud, because my goal is if I've written the book, I want the kids' reaction to be, let's read it again straight away.
Yeah.
So reading it aloud gives you that vibe of, okay, this is something that they'll want to read again.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I will talk your ear off all night and we'll never end the podcast. So, Dan, where can people find your book at the moment?
People can find my book at all the worst bookseller at the it is generally available. I think you can buy it. Most of the online stores have it. A lot of the it's what are you supposed to say to that? What's the
I
correct?
think at your favorite bookseller.
Oh, wait, your
That's the best one.
yeah. I was just thinking, what am I supposed to bookshops? So like, you know, you can buy it at all the
Has yours
bookshops.
made it into Big W?
I'm not sure. It's definitely. I've had a few reviews on Amazon, which has been not nice. If kind of can't mention it, but it's been quite nice. And I don't know. I know. Scholastic are quite good at. Scholastic are pretty good at all their distribution stuff. So I know it went into schools when it
Will be
first came out.
everywhere.
So yeah. So I have no idea, to be honest. But I do have a habit of, and this is a really, as for any new author like me, this is a great way of killing your own ego, which is popping into bookshops as you pass them to check if they've got your book in case they would like you to sign it, because they almost definitely won't have it when you when you go in. So you're and I'm just kind of like, I never get around to quite phoning ahead and sort of doing a little. I've been meaning to phone a few bookstores and then maybe go and do a little, run around one day and do a few signings and stuff. But what I do instead is if I happen to be out shopping, I'll sort of go, oh, there's a bookshop. I'll just pop in. Hello, do you have my book? No, we don't. Who are you? Never mind. It's okay. I'll just go and cry. But I did have I went to the big shopping centre in west of Melbourne a couple of weeks ago, and I went to Robinson's bookshop. And it's it's a big old Melbourne chain, and they had Bedtime and No Butts, and we just had a lovely time sort of signing, and so we had a lot of fun in there. So that was really lovely. So I've had a few. There's a few that have had it and a few that haven't. And when they do have it, it's lovely because they're always really pleased that you popped in. You know.
I do love visiting my book in bookshops to cheer myself up.
Yeah,
I haven't been known to go, oh, I'm here, I'll go visit my book.
Yeah.
And sometimes at the local library, or sometimes I will just go to the library website and I can look at how many copies they have and how many are borrowed out. And it is very satisfying when you see all of your books being borrowed out.
Nice. Robinson's in High Point. That was it. It's my shout out to my homies in Robinson's bookshop High Point, who are my newest bookshop chums. And yeah, but it's very satisfying when they put that sticker on it as well. Signed by the author. Signed by the author. That'd be what's got two thumbs and signed that book.
That's me. But then you also have to think about, I don't know if you write the same thing every time when you sign your book.
Yeah, I write.
I write the same thing every time, but your hand can get very sore.
Yeah.
If there's a queue of people and you're signing.
There's never a queue of people when I'm signing.
I need a stamp.
Yeah.
No, these days I do not have queues. But
yeah. Yeah, I had a queue.
More like thinking, oh, this is my book. Would you like me to sign it?
Yeah, exactly.
Lady, who are you?
In front of me walking around to the entrance to the bookstore, going, oh yes, apparently there's an author in the shop today. Did you?
You do have to become your own best bookseller. So my mum is my best seller. Every time she goes somewhere, she comes back and says, I've sold you another book. Could you sign one for me?
Oh,
Mum, stop.
Nice.
My barber's encouraging her.
My barber's actually become it's funny to hear the people who become your advocates, you know?
Mm.
And my barber's become this just huge advocate for my, he's just gorgeous. He's just like, oh yeah, I got one for my son, I got one for our cousins, and I got one for one of my favorite clients who came in, and it's like, what? Okay, great.
Set up a little stall in the barber.
It's great when he
Permanently
buys some, and
sellable.
whenever he buys them, I just, make sure I drive by and I'll sign them, and yeah, it's awesome.
You're getting the full author experience.
The
There you
full
go.
author experience. It's highly recommended. It's very, very much worth it. But still do it for you. Do it for the love. Do it for the love. And then if you get published, then amazing.
Even better.
And yeah. And then what you do is spend your advance on copies of your book so that they publisher thinks you did quite well, and then they publish the next one, and it just becomes a sort of self-fulfilling thing.
Don't end up with a garage full of books, Dan.
Okay.
There is a danger.
The house the books
That
built.
happening.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for joining me, Dan. It's been a pleasure to chat with you, and I'm really looking forward to your next book.
Thank you so much, Ky. It's so lovely chatting with you, and hopefully we'll get to do it again.
Amazing. Totally Lit is an independent podcast. You can help support us to continue to chat with wonderful Australian creatives by leaving a review on iTunes or sharing our socials with your friends. You can also make a contribution at www.buymeacoffee.com/totallylit. This will also help with equipment and podcasting platform fees. I love to interact with our listeners, so feel free to say hello either by email or social media at totallylitpodcast@gmail.com, or you can find me on Facebook, Insta, LinkedIn and Twitter, and now Blue Sky. I've also created a group on Facebook called the Totally Lit Writing Community. It's a space to continue the conversation and share your writing successes, events, launches, and latest projects. Jump into the group and say hello. Thank you for listening to Totally Lit, and don't forget to go out into the world to read, write, create, ignite.